I ever tell you the story of how I bought a $5 shack on Rain Cove Lake just to keep a promise to my wife, and spent the next 10 years turning that sad, sorry excuse for a cabin into our dream home? No? Well, buckle up because it's got more twists than a bowl of spaghetti and a villain who'd fit right in at a snake convention. You want a hook? Here it is. How many folks you know spend a decade building their slice of paradise just to have a local HOA try to scam it out from under them for less than the price of a Happy Meal? Yeah, I'm talking about mandatory buybacks, made-up fines for a too joyful doc, and a president who forged votes like she was trying to win an election in a banana republic. All I wanted was some peace, a little lake, and maybe my knees not aching so bad in the morning. Instead, I got a front-row seat to American greed, served up with a side of bureaucracy and pure, undiluted pettiness. Now, I'm Lane Dunford, and if there's one thing 60 years on this earth taught me, it's this. Patience is a virtue, right up until someone tries to steal your house. Most of my life, I've been a fixer, leaky faucet, lawnmower that coughs like it's got bronchitis, my own bruised ego after a rough day. My wife, Jean, says I have the patience of a glacier, which is her sweet way of saying I move slow, but once I get going, well, get out of the way. So let's rewind. 10 years ago, Jean and I bought this place. Bought is a strong word. More like adopted. $5, a handshake, and an understanding with the old guy who owned it. He got rid of the headache. We got a pile of lumber with delusions of grandeur. Couple loans, a million hours, and a good chunk of what was left of my knees, and we had something beautiful. Cedar and glass, hugging the shoreline, the kind of place you'd see on a magazine cover if you squinted real hard. We never planned to sell it. This was ours, our little spot on the lake, and a story. But of course, that's when Karen showed up. Not a generic Karen, a capital K, living, breathing, power suit wearing Karen Lucas, president of the Rain Cove County Homeowners Association. She had the air of someone who thought the rocks on our driveway ought to be honored she was stepping on them. It was a Tuesday, sunny and warm, lake shining like polished steel. I was fixing a splintered board on the dock, happy as a clam. Then I hear the crunch of tires, a sound full of purpose and not the good kind. Lane Dunford, she barked, her voice sharp enough to peel paint. I looked up. There she was, clipboard in hand, scowl ready for action. Even Buddy, my old hound, gave a low grumble. Jean appeared on the porch, eyes doing that quick scan. She can size up trouble before I can even say hello. Karen thrust a letter at me, official looking as all get out. Embossed crest, bold title, mandatory community cohesion and property reacquisition offer. It read like a ransom note for grown-ups. According to her, the HOA had determined our home was so offensively beautiful, so in violation of aesthetic standards, that we were eligible for their mandatory buyback program. Original purchase price, plus some nominal compensation for improvements. In plain English, sell us your home for $5 and change, or else. I'll never forget the look on Jean's face, storm clouds, about to break. I said, "You mean the $5 we paid old Mr. Henderson?" Karen smiled, didn't budge. "That's right. 72 hours to sign, or the HOA will take further action." I looked at that piece of paper, then at this woman, standing there like she owned the place. My patience was packing its bags. I could feel it. Jean stepped forward, voice cold and clear. "Does this program come with a complimentary unicorn? Or is that extra?" Karen's eyes narrowed. She wasn't used to anyone giving her lip. "This is a legal and binding notice, Mrs. Dunford. I'd advise you to take it seriously." Jean just grinned, said, "We'll take it so seriously, it'll get its own folder. We might even laminate it." Well, as soon as Karen marched off, her heels stabbing our lawn like it owed her money, we stood on the porch, staring at this ridiculous demand. The crickets weren't impressed, I can tell you that. I muttered, "Mandatory community cohesion sounds like a dystopian summer camp." Jean, already opening her laptop, said, "It's not just new, Lane, it's garbage. Complete garbage." 15 minutes of hunting through HOA bylaws later, she's sipping coffee, reading aloud. If a property is abandoned or irreparably derelict, the HOA may offer fair market value. Not a word about mandatory buybacks. Not a sniff about $5. Karen had made it all up. hoping we'd panic at fancy letterhead. We'll do nothing, Jean decided. Let the clock run out. If she's bluffing, don't even acknowledge it. 72 hours ticked by. Nothing but blue skies and the gentle slap of lake water. But then, of course, came the escalation. Monday morning, there's a white envelope taped to our door. Violation. Unauthorized aquatic vessel color. $200 fine. I kid you not. My old blue kayak had apparently committed a fashion crime. Jean opened a folder, labeled it the Book of Stupid. Next came fines for the dock being too joyful, the grass being too free-spirited, and the mailbox being subversive. Each more ridiculous than the last. We didn't just get mad. We started building a record. Petty harassment dressed up as rules. But I could feel it in my bones. Karen was winding up for something bigger. And boy, was I right. One Wednesday, the bank called. Marv from Lakeside Community, voice nervous. Sir, we've received notice of a lien filed against your property, a substantial one from the HOA. My stomach dropped. How much? I asked, already knowing it was going to be bad. $87,000, he said, for unpaid HOA fines. 87 grand. They'd bundled every fake fine, every ticket, into a bomb meant to blow up our finances. The lien was filed with the county, and now our small loan, the one we took to fix up the house, was in technical default. 30 days, Mark said, before foreclosure proceedings start. I hung up, heart pounding, rage ice cold. Karen had found the perfect leverage, not just threatening us, but turning the bank against us, all on the back of a fraudulent claim. When I told Jean, I watched her steel herself. She just signed her own death warrant, she said, eyes hard as nails. We're not going down without a fight. That night, neither of us slept. The plan formed in whispers over too much coffee, and the Book of Stupid spread out between us. Jean would get the original county filings. I call our old lawyer, Bill, who was half retired but sharp as a tack. We'd dig for everything, because now it was war. Then came the night of the storm. Power flickered, wind howled, and Buddy stood by the glass door, growling low. I grabbed the flashlight and a tire iron, call it a security blanket. There were two figures down at the dock, hunched over, trying to pry loose the cleats. Goons, sent to intimidate us, or maybe worse. Get away from my dock, I yelled, mag light blinding the bigger one. He stepped toward me. Wrong move. I sidestepped, he slipped, and went splash into the freezing lake. His partner took one look, decided he wasn't paid enough for this nonsense, and bolted. Next thing I know, red and blue lights sweep over the water. The sheriff's deputy arrived, tired but polite. You ought to get camera systems, sir. Noted. Back in the house, Jean wrapped in a blanket. I knew the line had been crossed. We couldn't count on anyone but ourselves. No more waiting, no more playing defense. We needed to get ahead, to find the ace Karen didn't know we had. That's when I remembered a conversation with old Mr. Henderson, years ago, the day we bought the place. Don't let the HOA folks push you about the water. Your property line is special. There's an old iron pin by the oak tree. Find that, you'll find the truth. Back then, I figured he was just telling stories. Now, it felt like a clue dropped by fate. Next morning, Jean and I, metal detector and shovel in hand, searched the roots of that ancient oak. We found bottle caps, nails, a rusty belt buckle, and then, finally, 6 inches down, a thick iron pin dated 1895. The real boundary. We drove to the County Hall of Records, and, after an hour of dust and ledgers, we found it, the original deed. Not just the land, but exclusive, perpetual riparian rights to the shore and waters, predating any future covenants. The HOA's rules? Didn't apply. Never did. We had the shield, but we needed a sword. Security cameras hidden in birdhouses, rocks, dock posts. Jean flying her drone like a pro, high and silent over our property. A neon pink mailbox, just to tempt them. A sign, private property dock and shoreline rights since 1895. Trespassers will be filmed. We showed the neighbors, the Henderson kid, the Millers. They became our lookouts. 3 nights, nothing. Then, just before dawn on the 4th, a workboat appeared, towing a crane. Same two goons. Cameras rolling, drone hovering. We watched them try to tow our whole dock away. I called 911, streamed the footage live to dispatch. Gene swooped the drone in, lights flashing, and the goons froze like deer in headlights. The sheriff rolled in hard this time. Hands up, cuff done. But we knew Karen wouldn't stop. So we called an emergency HOA meeting, sent the evidence, included copies of the 1895 deed, and invited the whole neighborhood. The room was packed, tension thick. Karen, smug as ever, tried to brush us off until we played the footage. Then Gene brought out the real twist. Forensic proof that half the votes approving our lien were forgeries. Homeowners shouted, "That's my signature. I wasn't even here." Karen's composure cracked. But the cherry on top? We pointed to the slick guy in the back, Mr. Sterling from Sterling Development Group. Public records showed he needed our land to finish his luxury condos. He already had the other 4 properties. Karen had been trying to force us out so she could cash in big on a private deal. The room exploded, shouting accusations, neighbors finally seeing the web for what it was. Karen's little empire of paper and intimidation collapsed, right there in the beige, bland clubhouse. The court case came quick. Our lawyer Bill, calm as a mountain, laid it out. The fake buyback, the book of stupid fines, the video of the attempted dock theft, expert testimony on the forgeries, and finally, the 1895 deed. Judge Miller, a woman with no time for nonsense, ruled swift and hard. The $87,000 lien, null and void. Karen personally fined $10,000. The HOA fined $50,000 for gross mismanagement. Karen and the whole board removed, replaced by a court-appointed receiver. Sterling turned state's witness. Karen lost everything. We stepped into the sunlight, not gloating, just lighter. Justice wasn't loud or flashy. It was methodical, relentless, and in the end, kind of beautiful. These days, life at the lake is peaceful again. The air feels lighter. Folks plant the flowers they want. The Millers joke about filling their yard with pink flamingos. My blue kayak sits proudly at the dock, the illegal color that started it all, now a local celebrity. Even Jean laughs more. She saw Karen at the grocery store. No more villain, just a sad woman waiting in line. And, looking back, the moral isn't about fighting harder or getting revenge. It's about outlasting, about digging a little deeper, standing a little taller, and having the patience to let the truth do its work, even when the system seems stacked against you. The law can be slow, but sometimes, just sometimes, it does what it's supposed to. So, here's my question for you. When someone in power bends the rules, when justice means standing alone against a bully, where do you draw the line? What would you have done? Ever had to fight for your own patch of peace? Drop your story in the comments. Because in the end, we all need to know, when does patience stop being a virtue and start being surrender?